and our life together. No matter what the weather, we gon' shine forever. No matter how clever they try to sever our ties, we bound by the ties that bind. My life for your life and our life together. No matter what the weather, we gon' shine forever. No matter how clever they try to sever our ties, we bound by the ties that bind.
Thank you for joining me for episode number 18.
Mucho, Amor.
And before we get started, if you live in the Atlanta area, holler at my boy Dave at Road Ready Mobile Detail and Oil Change, where success is the only option. You could reach him at 770-882-5011 or email him at dave84@getready/roadready.com. Or check him out on his brand new website, www.getready/roadready.com. For anyone living in the Louisiana area, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, all my friends down there dealing with this quarantine, stay safe and stay in the house. And the way to stay safe and stay in the house is order a pizza from Pizza Hut. They have a deal going on right now, $9.99 large pizza, up to 3 toppings, delivery or carry out. Tell them Paul from I Am Astrology sent you. With that, let's begin. The first time I heard about Walter Mercado, Mercado, was from my co-host, Claudia.
Yes.
But I never looked into him. They recently had a documentary on Netflix, The Legend of Walter Mercado. It sparked a lot of buzz. I wanted to see what everyone was talking about, so I sat down to watch it. And before I watched it, I looked up his chart, to see who I was looking at, and I looked it up on Astro. Astro had a chart, it was rated AA, so I went with it. They are our trusted site source. Mind you, I didn't know what I was looking at, and I didn't know what to expect. But they say it was a famous astrologer
from the Hispanic community.
And so, I'm thinking astrologer, this a regular old person coming out. So I push play and wow. That's what I said. That was my first reaction. This guy,
He was very flamboyant.
Well, yeah.
A very flamboyant personality.
Yeah, I'm just talking about the very first scenes. They were showing, and this guy, he had this big ass cape on, and he was twirling around with all his hair, and he looked feminine. And I was like, wait, what the hell's going on here? All right. So it shocked me for a quick second when I first saw it. So off top, so the documentary started, and they started talking, and the first red flag for me was when they went to Puerto Rico, started talking about where he was born. Mm-hmm. And they flashed up a year, 1932. Mm-hmm. But on the chart for Astro, they have 1931.
Yeah, Wikipedia also has 1932. And I think there's a couple of other websites that talk about him where it comes out as 1932.
Yes.
But then there was also that controversy that came out that supposedly some astrologer pulled up his birth certificate.
Yes. But and so most people would say, of course, well, we're gonna go with the birth certificate, right? Mm-hmm. But this wasn't a movie. This was a documentary, right?
Yes.
So you would think the people who were doing the documentary would actually do some research on an astrologer who specializes in birthdays.
I agree. I agree 100% with what you just said.
So, the thing started. All right. Now, the chart for on Astro.com has him as a.
You have the chart pulled up? You want to share it on the screen?
I have it. They have him as a Taurus rising, a Taurus sun with a Leo moon. Honestly, I can see the Leo. I got, and he has Mars in Leo as well on that, on the Astro chart.
In the 1931 chart.
Yes, in the 1931 chart. So when it comes to the Leo energy, that's really not a red flag right there for me. Right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let me play you something real quick. So they go to his hometown, and he starts talking about when he was a little kid. And the first thing they say is this.
When I was a child, I was very shy, insecure. My mother was very overprotective with me, and I was a dreamer. I was always dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
Pisces,
duh.
Wait, stop right there. Let me ask you something. And be honest with me. Does shy sound like sun in the first house?
No, absolutely not. Unless it's Virgo, I would think.
But it's Taurus.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Tauruses are very
fixed sun, fixed earth, stubborn.
Yeah, they have a presence in the room, I would say.
Put that in the first house. You know?
Sun in the house I don't think is shy. I think sun in the house will likely shine no matter what.
That's what I'm thinking. So that's a red flag for me, right? And then what else did he say in that statement?
Well, the dreamer. Me, the key word for me that I associated him immediately with Pisces was the dreamer, which I think is I don't think I would ever put Taurus as a dreamer ever in my entire life. I mean, unless it has like a lot of like Piscean influence.
Well, why are you talking about Pisces? Because the 1932.
Yes.
We never said when is his birthday. They say his birthday is in 1932.
Right. You're right. So the Wikipedia the birth date is March 9th, 1932. And then the one that, that's floating around with the birth certificate after the documentary is what I think is April 22nd, 1931.
Yes.
And I just want to add, I actually have
April 25th. You said 25th?
April 22. It's April 25th?
April 25th, 1931.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. I have a trusted source that I actually that this person, knew Walter Mercado at one point in their life, personally. And I asked, do you know if this date, the 1932, is accurate? Because, I spoke about, how there's a birth certificate floating around, whatever. And the person told me that he was very secretive about his birthday. Like, he was kind of like very personal about it. He wouldn't really share that with a lot of people. But that he knew for a fact that the birthday would be, that Walter would be turning 88 this year. So it's 2020, subtract 88, and that would give you 1932.
And that would 1932?
Yeah, that's the 1932.
Oh, okay.
The one that the chart that I agree with, that you pulled up when you were like looking through his releasing and all of that.
Yeah.
That's the chart that I agree with, where the sun is in Pisces, Mars is in Pisces, the moon is in Aries in the 6th house.
Yeah. And so I was just bringing that up. So to say the reason we talking about Pisces is because the date that they're saying his birthday is in Pisces. and he just said he was a dreamer as a little kid.
Yeah.
Another thing, when learning astrology, I learned that children are their rising, show more of their rising sign until they get toward teenage, and then the sun sign starts coming out and showing, right?
I've heard that too.
What'd you say?
I've heard that too.
All right. So I take that into account when this part came up.
One day, a bird fell in the jar, and it was dying. And I took the bird, and I began to pray and to giving life to that bird. A neighbor was watching, and I said, "You are going to live, little bird. You are going to live." And suddenly the bird started to flap its wing, and I started to get better, and it began to fly. And the lady said, "Oh, this boy has the grace of God to help and to heal people."
Now, healing. Pisces, yes. I put healing as a water sign. And if you, as the sign, what sign rules death and regeneration?
Scorpio.
And as a kid, a bird died. He brought it back to life. And all of a sudden, people were coming around trying to touch him because he was known as a healer.
Yeah. Which goes with the Scorpio rising.
Scorpio on the rising side.
Yeah. I like how you came up with that. I like your interpretation for that.
Thanks.
The bird that died and then he healed it with his arms.
Isn't that Scorpio?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what is it? Scorpio is represented by the phoenix, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So now at this point, I'm really kind of questioning what I'm seeing in the chart, right?
I would also add that I think that the Scorpio rising fits because his sexuality was a very secret topic throughout his entire life as an astrologer. Like no one ever had it confirmed, That was kind of like that was just something that everyone kind of speculated about what his sexuality was about, which I think is interesting because of the chart that you pulled up. Scorpio rising also deals with, sex, and also, Scorpio in the ascendant tends to be kind of secretive and mysterious, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Scorpio rules sex and all that.
So I think it would give it even more validity.
So
I know I jumped all the way over to sexuality. You can keep going.
Well, actually, if you want to stay there, hiding something, your sexuality, where would the chart I pulled up, where would it put his Saturn
in? His Saturn in the 4th in Aquarius. Saturn Aquarius, I guess, can be a little bit like unconventional and more, LGBTQ friendly as a sign.
Speaking of, let me see if I can find that part. Speaking of Aquarius, being in Saturn in Aquarius.
Mm-hmm. He used to, in the documentary, shows photos. Hopefully most of our listeners have already seen the documentary. But they do show photos. I mean, even like in his later life, you could see him. He would clearly, visibly wear makeup, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which in the Scorpio rising chart, he'd have his sun in the 5th house. So, it would that drama of like how you appear and whatnot. But he would wear makeup, and in his early life, his mom was very approving of him.
I'm glad you said his mom. Hold that thought right there.
Go for it.
Father, and I stayed with my mother, playing the piano and reading books. Everything about me was different.
This part right here. Now, you're talking about Saturn in Aquarius, right?
Everything about me was different, yeah.
What?
I can identify with that, man.
My mother said, if you are different, go on being different. Don't worry about that. To be different is a gift. To be ordinary is common.
Now, that part right there stood out to me as well.
Yeah, me too.
Being different, if you look at the chart for Astro, that would put his Saturn in a Capricorn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in the 9th house. I kind of could see, I could kind of go with the Saturn 9th house issue as far as beliefs and all of that
Religion
stuff.
and astrology, really
Yeah,
practicing astrology.
but it's not really a Capricorn issue.
Being different, I would say is an Aquarius issue.
But his different was really, really different.
Eccentric.
In the times that, and to be feminine-like in that time.
In the 40s, 50s?
In the 40s, 50s, and so all that stuff. And it was shocking and totally different.
Yeah.
Also, going back to the one I did, if you put Saturn and Aquarius in the 4th house, what he did at home was hidden. Different. He didn't share it.
What he did at home. Oh, okay, yeah. So basically what he...
Sexuality.
Yes. Right, so he didn't share it with the public. He only kind of allowed himself to be whatever sexual, whatever he ascribed to, always at home, basically, in his private life.
Also staying on the home front, being in Puerto Rico, being different like that, he was different in his homeland, 4th house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and not to mention that he's, Puerto Rico, I think it's a part of the United States territory and whatnot, but it's a very like Latin Caribbean state. It's Latino. It's very populated with like Spanish speaking people. The culture is a little bit more Caribbean, I would say, and it's a little bit more. It's like gays have been repressed in the United States for a really long time. But in Hispanic communities, they're like even more repressed type of thing, So you have to hide it even more.
Yeah. And so another thing. So let me move on. So he's different in his own land, and then they start about his early life, right?
Mm-hmm.
He talks about going off to school.
University of Puerto Rico, I began dancing classes. I just have a passion for dance.
That part right there.
Pisces, dancing, feet.
Passion for dancing, acting, and stuff like that.
Sun in the 5th.
But I could make an argument for acting and stuff for Taurus, arts and stuff like that. I could look at the Astro chart and be like, yeah, okay, I could see a double Taurus, But if you put that Pisces sun in the 5th house, and what did you say Pisces rule?
Feet. But also keep in mind his Venus is in Taurus in the chart that you pulled up.
Oh,
yeah, Venus in Taurus. In the March 9th, 1932 chart, he, Sun in Pisces, Venus in Taurus, which would go very well with him loving art.
And is Venus exalted in Taurus?
No, Venus rules Taurus.
Venus rules Taurus.
It's exalted in Pisces. But it also, but there's also a is it a sextile between Venus and Pisces, Taurus and Pisces? It's a sextile, right?
Yeah. So he has a passion for acting, dancing, and all that. That's a fifth house thing. Loving to be on stage and stuff like that. Pisces, acting.
You haven't even mentioned his midheaven is in the 10th in Leo, and it's conjunct his Jupiter, like exactly conjunct his Jupiter at 13 degrees in Leo.
Well, that's why I was saying, people would, if you look at the astro chart, you could say, okay, I could see his Leo moon. But if if you look at his cape, his hair, it's all like royal and Leo. And if you think about it, that was just his public appearance.
Yeah.
10th house, outwardly. The astro chart, Leo would be 4th house. So he would be more of a showman probably
at home. Yeah.
Than, out on the world stage, I would say.
I agree with you. I love this chart that you kind of created with your, the right. I think it fits it perfectly. I don't know him, but based on what I've read about him, and just watching his documentary and watching him when I was younger, all his planets, especially Mars in the 5th, I mean, it's so indicative of him being so dreamlike, actor-like.
Some of the other things that stood out was all of a sudden he had a 30-year career, and then all of a sudden he was off of TV, and that was pretty much the subject of the show.
Yeah.
Of why the reason he was off from TV. Was you watching him at that time when he?
Well, I'm a lot younger. I started watching him when I was 6. When I came to this country from Cuba, he was always in like the 5 o'clock segment in television. There's this channel called Univision, and it was on religiously. So that was probably one of my first experiences, like watching TV. He would come on and he would speak in Spanish. He would, say the horoscope of the day, everything that they described in the documentary. It was great. But you would literally.
But I'm asking, do you remember when he just all of a sudden just disappeared?
Yeah. Well, not really, because he disappeared in 2006. In 2006, yeah. I was already a little bit more like grown up-ish. I was probably already like in my teenage years, and I didn't really watch Spanish TV with my parents that much anymore.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
All right.
But
yeah,
he aged. He aged in front of the television. Or rather, like I think he tried now.
Uh-huh. So yeah. So there's a lot of things that also went on in the episode. It was a big. Hopefully, I'm not ruining it for anybody, but he lost the rights to his name and all that stuff. And if you look at, and I started playing with this chart I made, and I started playing with the transits and stuff like that, and if you use if you look at some of the dates, primary dates, and use the timing, you could kind of see, well, you will see how this stuff matched up. I mean, he has Chiron in the 7th, Chiron, the wounded healer, you
Never had a relationship.
7th house relationships, so 12th house, our undoing. His 12th house is Libra.
His undoing came from a legal matter, basically.
Yes, his bonded relationships. He was bonded. His you look at 8th house is Gemini, and his siblings' kids was his family.
Yep.
And his assistant.
Yeah.
Some say that wasn't his assistant.
but he was very clear. He really clarified that in the documentary.
Oh, I got a question for you. There was another part in the documentary when the assistant, you remember his name?
Oh my goodness. Yes, this is his name.
Anyway, the assistant opened up the cabinet drawer, in the kitchen, and it was full of vitamins and all of that stuff.
Moon in the 6th.
Which means, there you go. Virgo, 6th house, his 6th house is Aries, but moon there, what's that? Uranus?
Uranus is also in the 6th house, and Mercury is in the 6th house at 0 degrees. But I actually want to say something. I think, at the beginning you put on that clip where it says that, that he was like a healer and he would heal with his hands. Moon in the 6th also has a need to heal.
I agree.
Moon in the 6th could also be a healer. It's a super dignified healer, I would say.
I would agree.
Virgo is another sign of healing, I would.
By the way, just to be fair, the Astro chart would have Aries on the 12th, which would be disputes as well. So, just to be fair. But when you start lining up, doing the timing techniques and stuff like that, it's not lining up. Well, it didn't line up for me. Other y'all out there could try it yourself, but is there something else that kind of stood out to you that you want to speak about
Walter?
On the documentary.
I was surprised to learn about the whole legal dispute. I didn't know about that previously, but it's not so much something that stood out to me, though it does, especially because it's astrology, and everybody always thinks that astrology can come with some bad news. But what I can relate to, and what I love the most about what was said about him, is that he never had a negative thing to say. Like, he always had something positive to say. In all of his episodes or segments on TV or anything that he did with astrology, every time he spoke to a person, or he delivered, his monologues and whatnot, he was very positive in his mental frame. How astrology.
That stood out to me as well. I like that aspect of him.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, like, I don't want to say that, I don't also want to like ascribe to denial. Like, I understand that negativity exists, in the world, but I do like that he came a lot from like a positive point of view, rather than some astrologers would say, oh, well, this is good, or this is bad, or this is fortunate, or this is, unfortunate. At least that's how it was practiced, in ancient and Vedic astrology. It's really how it's practiced. But I don't necessarily like saying this is good or bad. So I'd rather, I really like that. That was the part that I liked the most. That he always had something positive to say, and people love that. That's why he was so loved, I would say.
One other thing that stood out to me was he kind of worked himself to death, sort of.
Going into sex.
Yeah, and Aries, as far as, you know, keep going. Yeah. By the way, if y'all want to know some of the dates I used for my timing, August 3rd, 1969, his first show. October 3rd, 2006, his last show. June 7th, 1995, the contract was drawn up against him. The contract that he lost his name. He signed the contract on August 4th, 1995. He actually signed his life away. That would be 6th. He became a slave.
Oh, in the 6th house. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also used around January 2012, he went to the Cleveland clinic after a heart attack, but he had the heart attack like in December, a few days before he went to the clinic. I also used, those were the main dates. He was Mr. Television Award in 1986. May of 2019, they started celebrating his career. You could check some of the transits that's going on doing that.
That's interesting. That's interesting because in May of 2018, Uranus went into Taurus, so it's transiting his 7th.
Yeah. January 12th, he lost the lawsuit against the company that took his name. Yeah. I said October.
January 12th what? January 12th what?
Actually, January 2012.
Oh, January 2012.
Yeah, January 2012, he lost the lawsuit. 6 years after his last show. Oh, another thing that stood out to me, I think one of his nieces or somebody in his family said he died twice.
Really?
Yeah. He died. The first time he died was during that heart attack.
Oh yeah. I actually.
Yeah, and the second time he died was the one.
So he had a near-death experience.
Yeah, Scorpio. You know,
Scorpio, right?
Yeah. Death and rebirth, regeneration.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, now after watching all that stuff and going, you know, I never really. I don't know that much about the Hispanic community, Latino community. Matter of fact, how do y'all like to be addressed?
I guess it really just depends on the person. I usually always say like, you know, Hispanic. I use that term.
How do you feel about Latino?
Latino? Yeah, I like Latino too. Latino, Latina, Latinx, you know, for not gendering.
So, after watching this, and it led me to have a couple of questions up, and hopefully, with you being in that community, you could shed some light on it.
All right, here we go. Right. Paul is the question master.
Yeah. So my first question to you
was,
go
easy on me, please.
You know, well, you know, you always Walter was your guy. I never looked him up, and after watching him and watching the story, why did he's kind of your hero?
Well, I would.
What do you look up
Why
to?
do I look up? Okay. Well, I would say basically what I answered earlier. The fact that he was very positive. The fact that he was just it. Like he didn't care about anything about it. He was just himself through and through always. I think that he maintained the same personality, outside of the camera and in front of the camera all the time. Like I think he was very good at that. And he seemed like a very joyous person. He seemed like somebody that really shed a lot of light and positivity everywhere he went. And that to me is something that I really look up to, because that's something that I can relate with. Those are the type of people that I want in my life. Those are the type of heroes that I want to have, I would say.
Speaking of relating,
Here we go.
when I watched it, my gaydar went on. Not saying I have a strong one, but I was like, wait, what's going on? But on the thing, on the documentary, he denied.
Well,
it.
let's just start by saying this. For anyone that's watching that's listening to this, I would say sexuality is very fluid, right? So is gender. Genders also become a fluid thing. But sexuality is very fluid, and he never admitted to being gay, even though I think it's interesting because in the documentary, they have some people that speak about him, like commentators and whatnot, and they just kind of, they start talking about him as if he was gay, because that's just what everybody was speculating. But he never admitted. He literally said it. He's like, "Oh, I have sex with the trees, with the wind, with this, that." Like.
So, with that being said, what is you mind telling people what you?
Okay, well, I identify as a queer person. Obviously somebody that's not straight. I don't really like categories and labels. I never really have. Maybe that's a Saturn and Aquarius thing. I also share the same placement. But I do definitely.
According to my chart.
Yes, according to your chart. But I definitely do identify, with a queer title, I guess.
Okay. Now, with that being said and out the way, how do you think it was for him coming up in your community at that time?
Well,
why do you think he didn't admit it?
Okay. I cannot completely wholeheartedly speak for him, but I can say that, like I said earlier, being gay or just not being a heterosexual in the Hispanic community is a very difficult thing. There's a lot of hush-hush. Religion plays a huge factor in how Hispanics judge you. The Hispanic community tends to take on a very like men are supposed to be kind of like machista, the macho, the typical traditional male figure. You go to work, you do things for your wife, like you take on that typical male role, right? And so for a Hispanic father to know that his son might be gay, that is a huge abomination, and it's something that's not talked about very openly.
Do you think it's worse for men than women?
I think it might be worse for women than men. I think for men, but this is all around, simply because I think our world lives like on the patriarchal.
Well, the reason I'm asking, because you said, because you were like, oh, my son is not gonna be able to do that.
Okay. This is a very tricky topic. Okay.
All right.
It's looked down on for men a lot, but with women, it's like there's less. I mean, I don't know the statistics for real, but I think that there's less women that will actually, come out to their family as, being gay or whatever in a Hispanic household than a guy. It's neither are accepted. It's like they both have a hard time being accepted. But the female, especially if the female looks very feminine, like if a woman that looks very feminine says to, in a Hispanic household, I'm a lesbian or I'm gay or I'm bisexual or whatever, it's like, oh, how could that be? You don't look like you're gay. That's like the first thing that they say. You don't look like a boy, or you don't look like you dress like a boy. You look very feminine. So even that is something that's a very difficult thing to kind of go around.
So you could see why he hid it all his life.
Absolutely. Especially what you said. He was born in the 30s, and the 40s, and the 50s. I mean, he was a very, very eccentric person. And back to your original question, that's another reason why I look up to him, because he was so eccentric, and he still put on the makeup. He still went out there. He didn't care what anyone said. He was himself through and through. And that to me is very admirable. Very, very, very admirable. But yeah, I know that it was probably very difficult. And even in the documentary, the fact that, he doesn't address it head on, which I don't know why he doesn't address it head on, but it could be, Scorpio rising. But even him not addressing it head on kind of indicates that it could still be something that towards his last moments in life was something hard for him to speak about, or something hard for him to even kind of confront. His nieces say that everybody always speculated, and they accepted him for who he was. But if you think about it, even in that documentary, which occurred months before his death, he still could not straightforwardly answer that question.
And his assistants say, wait, they always stayed in the same room and all that stuff.
But his assistant said that they didn't do anything either.
Yeah, they ain't do anything. Switching a little bit, because you spoke on it slightly. Last show, you said when you came here, you had to pick a religion in a party. Mm-hmm. Is Cubans the only island people that have to do this, and why do you have to do that?
Well, no, I said that because Cuba is a communist country. When I was growing up, it's a communist regime, dictatorship, and you can only believe in Fidel Castro, and that's it. You couldn't believe in God. You couldn't practice whatever religion you wanted to practice. You could not practice any religion. There was no political party, because Fidel Castro was it. That was it. That was the God.
Is Puerto Rico under the same thing?
No, I mean Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is part of the United States. It's a territory.
Hey, I'm not. I never claim to be.
No, I know you're not.
Yeah.
I know you're not a geographer, but. But I mean, if Puerto Rico is not part of the United States, I mean, I'm not sure what could happen. I know that there's other. I mean, China's a communist country.
How about the islands? Is Cuba the only communist?
Cuba, yeah, I think in the islands, Cuba might be the only one. I don't think there's communism in Haiti. I just know that it's a third world country. DR was under a dictatorship once, Dominican Republic, a very long time ago. Nicaragua has currently been going through some stuff. Venezuela with Maduro and Chavez.
Do those countries look push no religion type stuff?
I can't 100% speak on it because I'm from there, but yeah, I mean they kind of have a similar. I mean, for sure, Venezuela has a similar model to Cuba because, I mean, Chavez and Castro were very, very good friends, and look at what's happened to Venezuela now. I mean, it's really bad over there right now. The situation is very, very bad. So yeah, I would say that if they're not right now in terms of religion, then eventually they will be. They might not have that freedom.
Now, the Latino community as a whole, how do you see religion and spirituality within that community?
I would see it as, I mean, I think it's a necessity. I think spirituality is within, religion is without. I think it's necessary to be in tune with your spirituality, with your spirit. And so, I know that I know that in the Hispanic community, religion is a very big thing. And so I don't think that they go hand in hand. I don't think that in order for you, for you to be a spiritual person, you need to walk inside of a temple or a church. Mm-hmm. But I think in those places where it's more oppressed, spirituality and nurturing your spirit, if you even have, the ability to do so, given the circumstances that you're in, I think it's very necessary. And it's probably the only thing to keep someone, sane in a way. Everyone's got to believe in something, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. Even the atheists who say they don't believe, you actually believe in not believing.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah, even the atheists, they believe in not believing.
Yeah. Speaking of not believing, when I was a kid, I had, a few Latino friends, and I heard of something called Santeria. How you say Santeria?
Yeah, Santeria.
What is
Santeria. That? Santeria is I am also not an expert on this. This is just things that I've heard and I've seen growing up. Mm-hmm. I don't. That's not something that I practice, but I know I do have friends that practice Santeria. Santeria, I believe, comes from I want to say Nigeria, the Yoruba religion, traditional Ifa. It's basically worshiping saints, Yemaya, the saints of the ocean, Shango. There's a lot of different saints, and they practice it, doing different things such as offerings and things like that. Prayer, rituals, a lot of ceremonial events.
Is there other things like on that level?
There's also sacrifices. I know that there's different subcategories, I believe, within Santeria. Some people will do sacrifices, animal sacrifices. Others will not. There's it's different levels to it, but yeah, it's a very interesting. It's very interesting. Is
there other things like Santeria that your community may be into?
That my community may be into, I'm not sure. I will say that one of the things that is very similar to Santeria is Haitian voodoo.
Voodoo.
Haitian voodoo, Haitian voodoo.
I'm from New Orleans now,
That's true. Yeah, you are. But voodoo. I mean, if I had to compare Santeria to something, I would compare it to voodoo. It's just a different. Voodoo is, they do it differently. They have their own customs, I'm sure. But both of them are very similar in the way that that it's practiced. I think it's a little bit more occult.
Would you say the Latino community is superstitious? I would.
Maybe, yeah, maybe in that regard, in the Santeria regard.
No, I'm just saying in general. I mean, because because if you think about astrology,
Yeah.
you know, and Walter was big. Speaking of, how does your community look at astrology now? Or how do you see astrology inside you? Are they embracing it? Are they, you know?
I think, yeah, well, definitely. Well, I think the entire world currently is embracing astrology. There's definitely a wave coming, the new age wave. And I do think a lot more Spanish-speaking people and Hispanic people are embracing astrology. Walter, in my experience, Walter Mercado was one of the few Latino astrologers that I've ever known about. I'd probably say he might have been the only one as I was growing up. And I know,
I was just about to ask, do you know any
No,
names?
yeah. Well, I mean, through social media on Instagram and stuff like that. But, someone that made it to that, like, stardom, or that was, on a TV talking about astrology in the 90s and in the early 2000s. I don't know anyone other than Walter that has done that. So he was, I think he was really a trailblazer, which again goes with his moon in Aries, a trailblazer, a pioneer.
Yeah, there you go. Interesting. How did you feel when you heard that they did a documentary on your guy?
Oh my God. Honestly, I will say I had like this moment where I was like, wow, this is really happening. When I started, when I got into astrology, like when astrology was presented again in my life, because I've known about astrology, obviously, since I was 6 and I would watch Walter. But I don't remember as a child, how that made me feel. I just remembered, at 22, somebody spoke to me about my sign and I was completely enamored with it and I had to dive in and I loved it, which is in one of your episodes. But I think that when I had astrology come back into my life, a lot of my friends, as I was talking about it, like I would go on and talk and nonstop. A lot of my friends started calling me Walter, because as like a play on words of like, Walter, like Walter Mercado, they'd be like, oh, you sound like Walter Mercado, nonstop talking about astrology. So that kind of stuck to me. It was one of the ways that Walter was born, and when this documentary was released, to me, it was kind of like this aha moment. It was like, wow, if Walter Mercado could have a documentary, made about him, an astrologer, like, what are the possibilities for me or for any other astrologer in the future? It's one of those things that's like, wow, like astrology, my favorite subject in the world, and there's a documentary about someone on it. It can't get better than that.
Did you, how did watching the documentary, you may have had an idea of his homosexuality, but was that confirmation for you?
Some of the comments that he made, were kind of questionable, but I can't.
Do you believe him?
Honestly, I mean, I don't want to.
He said he said a virgin. He said he was a virgin.
He did say he was a virgin. Moon in the 6th. Virgo is, 6th house is the Virgo house, virgin.
Good point.
Yes.
Good point. Way to pull that one out.
Yes. But okay, I don't. Did I believe him? I don't know. And I feel bad saying that I don't know because I technically should. But I'm not sure, and it goes back to that question, like, he was born in such a time where like that was so occult, like being gay was not something that was just so easily done. And so I like to think that maybe perhaps, he had a very difficult time like stating it because of that. But at the same time, I'm no one to say that, like, he wasn't gay or that he was gay, If he says that he wasn't, or if he doesn't want to admit to it or even talk on the subject, then that's on him. I totally respect it. But I thought, a lot of people have thought, their entire life that he was not 100% heterosexual. I have, family of mine, friends of mine. It's kind of been talked about, It's a Miami topic. There's a lot of parodies and comedy shows where, like, he was kind of made fun of, and it comes out in the documentary.
Interesting. What is give me what do you want to leave the people with?
Mucho amor.
No, not that. Yeah. But what is give me a final thought. Sum it up. Some Walter Mercado up for me from your perspective.
On what? A summary on what? On him? On the documentary?
On him, because I don't want the last thing we talk about.
Oh, his sexuality.
His sexuality.
Yeah, he inspired.
Because he was more than that. That was just a aspect of
he
him.
was more than that. He was an inspiration, and I think he still is. I think he's an inspiration for everyone and anyone that has ever wanted to do something, but that might have been scared to do it because of what other people might think. I think he was an inspiration to those people. I think he inspired everyone to be a beacon of light and someone that could just shine and have a smile on their face and say a word of kindness and positivity. But more than anything, I think he was very inspiring for anyone that might feel like that they're different, to just accept their differences and just be. It's okay to be different, like his mom said. It's to be different. It's boring to be ordinary sometimes.
It's boring to be ordinary.
It is. It's boring to be ordinary. And you know what? I think Walter really, and with that documentary, I think he really was able to fly his freak flag, and that's one of the things that I like the most. That he flew his freak flag so brilliantly.
As a North Node, as a Aquarius North Node,
you, not me.
Yeah. Me, no, yeah. Me. Well, you have Saturn in Aquarius
and Venus and Mars.
Yeah, but I also have Venus conjunct Uranus.
Oh, okay.
Me personally,
yes.
My chart. And so that's another reason probably why that statement really resonated with me, and I wrote it down.
Yeah.
I really felt that statement that
that his mom said.
Yeah, to be unique is a gift.
To be unique is a gift, and to be able to express that gift, even when everyone is telling you not to, or when they look unapologetically. Yes. Oh, that was beautifully said. Yes.
Any last words, Claudia?
Other than a lot of love.
Yeah.
Well, no, just I really enjoyed this episode. It was warm. It was close to my heart, and Walter's an inspiration for me. His background I can relate to, his sexuality or lack of I can relate to, his uniqueness I can relate to. So I really enjoyed looking at his chart. I enjoyed the delineation that you came up with, and the chart that you came up with. I really dig it. And yeah, thank you so much to everyone that has tuned in and everyone that keeps tuning in.
Matter of fact, if anybody want to try to pull that chart up, it's March 9th, 1932, 10:22 p.m., Ponce, Puerto Rico. I'd like to thank y'all for joining us for episode number 18.
Mucho, mucho amor.
Also, don't forget my friend Dave at Road Ready Mobile Detail and Oil Change, where success is the only option. Phone number 770-882-5051. Email dave84@get/roadready.com and email website www.getready/roadready.com. All my peeps in Louisiana, Southern Louisiana, don't forget the $9.99 Pizza Hut special.
Gotta love that pizza.
Yeah. Hey, you gotta stay safe and away from people in these times. And Louisiana is a hot spot. So
is Miami.
Yeah. I want to thank y'all again.
Thank you, Paul.
And I end this the same. Know thyself and balance your energy.
Sometimes I think about the shit that I do, people I knew. I think about the chances I blew. What's left to do? Nothing can change this for me, so I gotta get rich and stay away from penalty. Can't you see? What kind of man would I be if I thought I could, but couldn't freak this industry? I'd be rough like a frog, crowd you like frog. If rap was the WB, I'd be the frog. Remember, y'all don't really wanna see my temper when I stomp like a Range Rover all up in your center. I enter through the back with a sack, and it's a sad fact that you got to stay strapped in this rap. But I know how to make y'all act, cause I roll with automatic tactics and stay high like some tactics. It's a fact, it's just the method of my madness. Disrespect and feel sad. Hey yo, my life and your life and our life together. No matter what the weather, we gon' shine forever. No matter how clever they try to sever our ties. We bound by the ties that bind. My life for your life and our life together. No matter what the weather, we gon' shine forever. No matter how clever they try to sever our ties. We bound by the ties that bind. You made my life a little better.